this Psion outfit for Psione is in fact a Geoshell outfit. So this is not a geometry, this is a Geoshell, which means it behaves much like the material zones of the object that the Geoshell is created for, just with materials that are kind of slightly offset, usually lying like a shell on the outside of it. And the materials for that can be defined slightly differently. So in my scene here, I have two Genesis characters here, a Genesis 8 character on the left-hand side and a Genesis 8.1 character on the right-hand side. This suit here, if I go and apply that to the character on the left, to Genesis 8.0, you'll see that it looks like this. So it's much like a bodysuit with an interesting material, and it works just fine like it should. But as Sam found out the hard way, when we apply the same suit to Genesis 8.1, we see something like that, and that's just not what we had bargained for. Let me go and switch this over to filament here, that we see this a little bit better. So what happens is that the suit is not applied to most of her body, and that's totally not what we want. And he sent me a screenshot of this in Discord and said, hey, what's wrong with this? I can't work this out. And I deduced that by the logo that we see here, this is in fact a Geoshell. I've talked about Geoshells in a previous video in which I've showed you how you can blend materials between them, but you can also literally replace a material completely with a Geoshell. And that is what happened here. So essentially, the suit is covering all the materials of the actual character with something else. And this is that little ghosty icon here. That's what that looks like. The reason why this didn't work on Genesis 8.1 is that one of the changes that has been made to 8.1 is in fact the material zones on the character. Whereas in Genesis 8 we had something called, and I'll just go and open this up here. This is the suit for the Genesis 8 character. If I head over to my surfaces tab and then open up the suit, you'll see all these surfaces here. And one that we do find is in fact the torso map, or the torso material here. And that is no longer available in 8.1. In 8.1, this material zone has been split out into two, namely the head and the body. So they're still there, but they're now two material zones. And this Geoshell was made for 8.0. It doesn't really know how to handle that on 8.1, and hence it just leaves things blank and basically white. So what's the workaround? Thank you so much for Mark for bringing this to my attention. What we do is we mouse over the torso channel here in the surfaces tab on the Geoshell in question on the 8.0 character, and we go and left click and copy this selected surface here, just so that we have a reference to it, and then we can paste it over to the correct channels on the 8.1 version of the same Geoshell. So let's go switch over to the 8.1 version of it and open that up, and then you can see that this torso is nowhere to be found here, but we do have a head group and we have a body group. We also have a face group, so don't mix that up. Face is still the face, but now head is the back of the head. So it's essentially the thing at the back here. That's the head. So we go and try the body first, and technically all we need to do is literally just right click and paste this on here, but there's more to it than just that. So the number one is that if we open up the body material zone, we see that these are actually 3D Light material definitions. So if we just look at the arms as a comparison, these are Iray definitions, so general, base, metallic flakes and stuff. But on the ones that are undefined, which is body, we have general, diffuse, specular. So that's kind of a giveaway of the fact that this is in fact a 3D Light surface property. And the same goes for the head. So we have the same thing on the head. So we need to go and make sure these things are being converted into Iray properties first. Otherwise our Iray material isn't going to work on it. So what we'll do then is we'll click on the body and then control click on the head so that they're both selected. And then we head over to presets over here, into the shaders category, into the Iray category, and then the first icon here at the top is the Iray Uber base. We just double click that, and that'll now convert these 3D Light material definitions, on 3D Light definitions on the surfaces into Iray properties. We head over to the editor again. Now I see those are correct. So now what I can do is just paste whatever I had copied from my 8.0 torso channel. I'm going to copy that to body and to head. Moments later, so we hope, things are more or less taken care of. So I do see a material on here now, and it looks like it's for the most part working okay, except for a few weird artifacts. So I can see that on the body seems to be okay for the most part, but the the whole head group, that looks like there's a little bit of a black spot on the top, which in this design doesn't actually, matter so much, but it's not exactly a replica of what we had on 8.0. So what's happened there? Well, not only have the material zones as such changed, the UV sets have also changed. And the UV set is essentially the definition of how a 2D material is projected onto the 3D object. So it is generated when you UV unwrap the object. But 3D objects can have multiple UV sets, and those are variations of essentially the same thing, but in a different way. So if you imagine that you had a cube and it's unwrapped with 6 sides, like flat out, laying a bit like a T-shape on the UV map, you could do it this way, but you could also leave the squares and move them around in a different way. And that would be a second UV set. It would still describe for a different type of texture what the 3D object needs to look like, how the 2D texture needs to wrap around it, but it's just a different way of doing it, and that's a UV set. And in the Genesis figure and also in the Geoshells thereof, we do have these types of UV sets. Let me show you this on the body as we're here. If you open up the body, go into the geometry channel, that's all on the surfaces tab, you find UV maps. And there's this menu that says the current UV set that we're using is the base 8.1 female set. But if you have a look at that, there's others that you can have. So I have the one from X Transfer, that's a Zevo product that lets you use Genesis 3 characters and materials on a Genesis 8 character. But we also have the base female. So you'll probably have this one and that one, and perhaps even others. So if I switch this over from base 8.1 female to base female, then I'm using the same UV definition as we had on the 8.0 character. And we're not going to see much of a difference because on the body, even though there are tiny differences, they're not going to show up. So what is mostly going to do that, if I go and switch this over to my head now and have a look at the geometry on the head on UV maps and switch that over from 8.1 female to 8.1 base, and look what happens to the head if I do that. It comes correct. So there we go. That is now an exact duplicate of what we see on the 8.0 character. And that is essentially how you do that. So if you do ever have issues with a Geoshell that was originally made for 8.0 and you're applying it to an 8.1 character and you're running into these issues, this is how to solve it. And thank you so much, everyone on the Discord for clubbing together and bringing on suggestions how to solve this. And we cracked it together, and I'm mighty proud of it. I thought I'd share the success with everyone.